Ready? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala ashraf al-anbiya'i Muhammadan al-Mustafa wa ala alihi al-mujtaba. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Allahumma anfa'na bima 'allamtana wa 'allimna ma yanfa'una wa zidna ilma wa zidna hikma walhamdulillahi ala kulli hal. We'll continue with the fiqh of fasting, inshallah. Last week we looked at the issue of moon sighting from a fiqh perspective. What are the requirements? What are the legal requirements on this matter of moon sighting? That's what we focused on in terms of the witness, what the witness has to be, who it has to be, the testimony, whose testimony is going to be accepted. When do you sight the moon? The hadith that we use to present that argument of sighting the moon, and then the whole sighting it with the naked eye, the importance of sighting it with the naked eye based upon the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's that's what we have looked at so far. Practically, like I mentioned last week, there's different systems that are used around the world, and that's all based upon the authority, or what the authority, so if it's a Muslim country, if it's Muslim land, then of course there will be a board members that will be known as the Ru'ya Hilal committee or members. So they will be the ones that will sight the moon. They will be the ones that will declare positive sighting, and if it's a valid sighting, if the evidence or if the witnesses are accepted or not, and so on. In a non-Muslim, minority Muslim countries, where you don't have the authorities as run by Muslims, or you don't have Muslim leaders in those countries, then the idea is that Muslims come together and they give their allegiance to a certain board or certain people and say, we trust you to do this, and so then they will use the process that they use. In a country like UK, there's not one board, there's not one committee. You have a number of different committees, a number of different people, a number of different organizations that will declare the sighting of the moon. So some will follow one process, another will follow another process, and that's why we have multiple Eids and multiple days or different days where people start the fasting, and that's really the greater issue. So if for example, and there are valid opinions, if for example we trust one board or one committee, and we say one organization, and we say that they will be the ones that will sight the moon or will verify the correct sighting, then whichever method they follow, as long as the method exists within the madhab, for the sake of unity, this is what I think, for the sake of unity, we should just accept it, right? But the issue here is that there is no one authority or organization that everyone accepts as valid, or as someone that they can trust when sighting the moon, and that's where the greater issue is. So today we will look at the global and local sighting. We started this last week. So we have we have different, like I mentioned last week, we have different methods of sighting the moon, acceptable in the Hanafi madhab, both global and local, though global is the stronger opinion of the Hanafis, the Hanbalis, and according to some, the Maliki school of thought, whereas the local sighting is the stronger opinion of the Shafi'i school. So global sighting is this opinion that if anyone was to sight the moon anywhere in the Muslim world, and it's verified by Qadi, verified by a judge, then we accept that citing for the rest of the world, right? Wherever you may be in the world, as long as someone in the Muslim world has cited the moon, we accept the citing as long as the qadi has verified it, the judge has verified it. So we go by that citing. This is the stronger opinion, and it's the easier one to actually follow, really. So if we hear citing from a Muslim world, then we accept it. However, the issue that's been there in the past is whenever a citing takes place in the Muslim world, and usually it's the first ones to cite the moon is Saudi Arabia. The issue that that comes up that we have is that we spoke about the moon last week. We spoke about the possibility of when the moon can be seen by the naked eye, and so whenever often we in the past, in history, when the sighting has been declared, when someone has sighted the moon in a Muslim world, particularly Saudi Arabia, it's been impossible to actually sight the moon. And so either Ramadan has been started based upon this sighting where it was impossible with the naked eye, or Ramadan has ended and the day of Eid has started based upon this sort of sighting where it hasn't even been possible. This is the issue. This is the reason why many are reluctant in following the global sighting, because the global sighting usually the testimony, the sighting comes from Saudi Arabia, and they have known to be incorrect in the past, and that's the issue for the Hanafis in this part of the world. The other opinion is the local sighting. This is where each locality follows its own sightings, and this is the stronger opinion of Imam Shafi rahimahullah ta'ala, according to some of the Maliki school too. And we take majority of at least for people that are local in High Wycombe, we take the local sighting opinion, and so we have committee that sights the moon locally, and if it's not seen, then we depend upon our neighboring or nearest, not neighboring, but nearest Muslim countries. If they have sighted the moon, and if they have sighted the moon, then we go by that, because that is still considered as local sighting and not global sighting. All right, so we have these two opinions, global sighting and local sighting. Hanafi position, stronger one, is global sighting. The Shafi's stronger opinion is the for Hanafis is global sighting, and for Shafis is the local sighting. All right, but the more important thing is if the moon sighting is established, and this is for the evidence that that exists for the global sighting. So if moon sighting is established in one city, then it is binding upon all people. The reference for this is prominent famous books of the Hanafi school, in Fath al-Qadir, the commentary of Al-Hidayah, Imam Ibn Humam, he cites this as is he mentions this. Therefore, the people of the East are obliged to follow the sighting of the people of the West, according to the soundest position in the madhab, and it has been said in a weak opinion that it differs based upon region, meaning the local sighting. But like I mentioned, this is the stronger opinion in the Hanafi school of thought. The other method, very quickly, the other method is relying on astronomical calculations. Again, this is accepted across the schools, though it's a weak opinion. At least in the Hanafi madhab, the calculation is a weak opinion, because we really base the sighting on the being sighted by the naked eye. The naked eye, because of the hadith that we mentioned last week, it's important for the sighting to take place via naked eye. And so astronomical calculations are a weak position, a weak opinion in the madhab, though it does exist. And this is the method that some will champion, some will go with this method. Some Muslim countries too, some prominent organizations as well, right? Okay, just to summarize, in terms of sighting of the moon itself. So when it's the beginning of Ramadan, when it's beginning of the month, if there's an obstruction in the sky, if it's cloudy, if it's if the weather is it's not great, then sighting of one upright person is enough. Otherwise, two males or one male and two females are required for sighting the moon of Ramadan, right? This is for beginning of Ramadan. So when the month of Ramadan starts, and the sky is cloudy, then one person, one upright person is enough. Otherwise, two males or one male and two females. If there's only one male, then another two females must testify that they have seen, they have sighted the crescent with the naked eye, right? For the completion of Ramadan, so for the end of Ramadan now, for the month of Shawwal, for the day of Eid, if there's an obstruction, then two male witnesses. So one is not acceptable. For Eid, one's not acceptable in any case, right? So for the day of Eid, for completion of Ramadan, there must be at least two male witnesses or one male and two females if it's cloudy. And if it's clear, if the sky is clear, if there's no obstruction, then a large body of people are required. If it's a clear evening, there's no obstruction, there's no clouds around, then actually a large body of people, and there's difference of opinion what it means by large body, but a majma, a great number of people must come forward and say, actually, we've sighted the moon, we've sighted the moon, we've sighted the moon, right? So a large body must come forward for the qadi to verify, for the qadi to say, I accept this as true sighting, and for the day of Eid to be declared. If it's not cloudy, a large number. If it's cloudy, then two males, or one male and two females, right? This is what we understand from the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that this is the requirement for the sighting of the moon, right? And so that's really moon sighting, the issues of moon sighting from a fiqh perspective, not from practicalities. We haven't mentioned too much as to what happens practically. I've just hinted towards what some countries might do and what we do here locally. But from a fiqh perspective, and fiqh is only telling us how to do things. Now, what people do, that's a different story. But how to do it based upon the evidences that we have, this is what we have mentioned in the last lesson, and we've just finished it off today. All right. So that's all regarding the moon sighting. Then we're moving on to the exempted people, those that are exempted from fasting, right? And as a principle, if a person is sick or a person is traveling, they may postpone the Ramadan fast. So if a person is sick or a person is traveling, they are permitted to postpone the fast of Ramadan. Right, so may is really important here, right? They might do, they don't have to, but they might do. Right? Okay, now as for the exempted or concession, then there's two types of concessions. There's what we call the haqiqiyya, right, the real concession, rukhsa haqiqiyya, and we have the legal rukhsa, majazi or hukmi rukhsa. So you have a real concession and you have a legal concession. Real concession, what we mean by that is you have a choice to take the concession or not, right? So anything that is considered as a real concession, you have a choice in that. You can take the concession or you can continue with the normal ruling, right? The general ruling. You don't have to take rukhsa. As for the legal concessions, the rukhsa hukmiya, you must take the concession. You can't leave the concession. You must now act by what the rukhsa is, what the shari has has legislated in terms of the exemption, right? What the Shari has made easy, you must follow that, right? That's called the rukhsa hukmiya, the legal concession, right? And so the fasting, the exemption for the fasting of Ramadan for the one who is sick and the one who is traveling, which concession does this fall under? This falls under the real concession. This falls under the rukhsa, where you have a choice, right? Whether you want to take the rukhsa or you don't want to take the rukhsa, right? So you have a choice to take the concession or not, right? That's both for the one who is traveling and for the one who is sick, right? We will. I'm just going to give some more detail about the travel and the sickness, just so that we have better understanding of who is really, who has the possibility of being exempted, or who has this choice. Okay, but just for at this moment, just to understand that rukhsa is of two types. You have a real rukhsa, where you get a choice of whether you want to take it or you don't want to take that rukhsa. And legal rukhsa is where you don't get the choice. You must take the concession. You must take the rukhsa. Example of real is the one who is traveling in the month of Ramadan, and the one who is falls sick in the month of Ramadan. Both of these individuals, the traveler and the sick, if they can fast, they should fast. If they can't, then they can take the rukhsa. They are allowed, they are permitted to take the rukhsa. This is what we're saying, right? In comparison to a legal concession, rukhsa hukmiya, for example, traveler who needs to pray. So the traveler's prayer, the shortening of the fara'id, that's a legal rukhsa. That's what the Shari has declared, and you don't have a choice in that. That's why if someone was to pray 4 rakah dhuhr prayer, fard of dhuhr, once they are considered to be a traveler, then they have gone against what the Sharia has instructed or commanded them to do. Sharia is commanding them to shorten their prayer. Sharia is giving them the concession, right? A legislated change, that's what concession is, in the ruling. So it's legal, it's from the Shari, the legislator, right? And the Shari has made it from difficult to easy. So the Shari has made the dhuhr prayer, has instructed the dhuhr to be from the 4 rakah to 2. If someone doesn't take that and prays 4, then they have made a mistake in this, right? They would have to repeat their prayer, right? It's wajib for them to pray the shortened prayer, right? The qasr prayer, since it's a concession which is legal, right? Okay, now as for sickness, what qualifies as someone being sick enough to leave the fast? So sickness is either an actual sickness, which means that you fasting will worsen your state. So you're so sick that if you were to fast, then it would worsen your state. And the other type of sickness is affective, which means that it's not that it would worsen the sickness, it would worsen the condition, but rather affective sickness is where a person's recovery is delayed. That's also a type of sickness. When a person's recovery is delayed because of fasting, they would qualify as being sick, right? So you're sick either because if you were to fast, your sickness, your condition would worsen, or if there's delayed recovery. If you're sick, and if you were to fast, it wouldn't worsen, but it would delay the recovery. In this case, you'd qualify, you'd be classified as sick. You'd come under someone who is sick. Now, who can determine this? Can it be self-determined? This goes back. This is same. The ruling is same as trying to determine whether you are good enough to pray while standing, fulfilling all the conditions, or you're too sick to pray while standing and you have to sit down or you have to lay down, right? It goes back, the rulings go back to that. So the same people that were allowed to determine that are the same ones that will determine your sickness when it comes to fasting. Either an upright Muslim doctor, and the caveat of Muslim here is added because a Muslim would truly understand the importance of the prayer of wudu, right? We discussed this in the chapter of wudu as well. So if someone can't make wudu, for example, and has to make tayammum, who can give that ruling? Who can give them that advice, that fatwa? It would have to be a Muslim doctor, and the caveat of Muslim is there because a Muslim would understand the importance of praying with wudu, praying with all its conditions, and also fasting. And so therefore it has to be someone who knows the seriousness of it and then says, actually, you're just too sick to fast. In that case, you would accept that. Of course, Muslim doctor isn't, we're not strictly, if there's no Muslim doctor and you go to your GP and the GP is a non-Muslim, and the GP, after you've told the GP the importance of fasting, the GP recommends or the GP advises you to not fast, then you would consider that, right? But I've told you the reason why the addition of Muslim is there in the books of fiqh when it comes to giving their opinion on fasting, right? On exemptions, or someone being given rukhsa, concession for fasting. The second way in which you can determine whether you are sick, whether you're too sick to fast, is prior relevant experience. Maybe you've had this before. You've got a particular type of condition. You've got some sort of stomach bug, or you have something that it's hereditary. You have it, or you've had it in the past Ramadans. Or you've had it in the past at some point, and you're too sick to be able to fast with this condition. This is prior relevant experience. This is enough to determine your sickness. And third, clear and obvious signs. Clear and obvious signs are based on someone else's experience. Maybe someone else has told you. Maybe someone else has maybe based upon someone else's experience, you're making this judgment. So you have someone in the household that has had these signs, that they have had this sickness, and they have not been able to fast. So therefore, based upon that, you make this judgment, and that would be clear and obvious signs, right? Also, I signaled here, a woman who is pregnant or a woman who is nursing, they also fall under a sickness, right? They will fall under sick. So they can also be exempted from fasting. But remember, let me take you back to the principle. If a person is sick, they may postpone the Ramadan fast, right? We have just a normal sort of kind of ruling that maybe this is based upon a culture, but I often get this question, and that's why I bring this up. But there's a general kind of understanding that anyone who is pregnant or anyone who is nursing doesn't have to fast, as in they are exempted. The type of exemption that excuses them from fasting completely. No, actually, this is the type of exemption that gives them choice, right? So if a woman is nursing, or if a woman is pregnant and she's able to fast, then she should fast, right? This is again based upon her determination of this will be based upon prior experience, advice of doctor, and so on, right? But a pregnant woman or a nursing woman, she is allowed to, she's permitted to postpone her fasting. If she was to leave, for example, I mean, with some sisters, it may be the case where either they are nursing or they are they're carrying a child, so they're in the period of pregnancy, right? And this could go on for 3, 4, 5 years possibly, right? And so if they're able to fast, right, even if they're only able to do 5 days or 10 days or 15 days, that's better than leaving all the fasts. Because what's going to happen is after 5 years is they're going to have 150 days of fasting to make up, right? Because they would have to make it up 150 maximum. I mean, if they maybe they don't have to make that many days up, but just as an example, if they are able to fast in the month of Ramadan, then they should fast. But remember, the rukhsa is there, and the rukhsa is there to make the difficult easy. I mean, the Sharia does not want to burden someone. Sharia does not want to make things difficult for people. And so it's, the rukhsa is there for it to be taken when it's needed, right? And so that's for pregnant or nursing lady. As for the travel, so someone who is traveling, they also have rukhsa. They have the rukhsa of whether they have the choice of whether they want to fast or leave the fast. I may have hinted this previously, but traveling for someone who is traveling, the principle is that the travel must be taking place. You must be traveling when it's time to close the fast, when it's true dawn. At the time of true dawn, you must be traveling for you to take this, for you to have this concession. All right. Otherwise, there is no concession. You must. So, if, for example, if I am intending to, my flight is 10 a.m., for example, or 11 a.m., and I intend to get to the airport at 7 a.m., the fast closes at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. So I'm going to be at home, but I know for sure I'm going to be traveling later on in the day. So at true dawn, where am I? At true dawn, when I'm about to close my fast, am I in the state of travel, or am I a resident at home? If I'm a resident at home, I must close my fast. I must fast for that day, right? Now, if I'm traveling somewhere like Australia or America, and I'm traveling, 12 p.m. or 1 p.m. onwards, and then the sun's going to set and I'm unsure where it's going to set and so on and so forth. Once you've started your travel, and then when the haraj, when it becomes difficult, then you're allowed to break the fast and then make qada later on. But if you're at home, if you're a resident and you haven't started traveling at the moment, then you must keep that fast. You cannot break that fast. You cannot not start that fast. You must begin that fast, right? And remember, travel is for anyone that's traveling for 15 days or more to somewhere, to a certain place, then they become a temporary resident, right? So if I'm going to somewhere on a holiday and I'm going for 3 weeks, all right, I'm going on a business trip and I'm going for 3 weeks and I'm traveling there, then as long as I am there, I'm not a traveler now, right? I am a temporary resident, because it's now beyond 15 days. 15 or more days makes you a temporary resident of that place. I would be fasting. If it's less than that, right, and I'm, then I would be considered as a traveler, right? And I have concession. But like I mentioned before, if it's easy for you to fast, then it's better for fast. If it's okay for you to fast, if it's manageable for someone to fast whilst in the state of traveling, then it's better for someone to fast, right? If it's difficult, then the concession is there, right? I had previously, I had someone ask me a question that they travel to work every day and they commute somewhere, and it's quite a long journey. Say for example, it's it's way beyond the travel mileage, so it's 100 miles or 110 miles every day, right, there and back. And sometimes they stay over there and then they come back the next day or something like that. So they asked, would they be considered as a traveler then? Do they have the choice of breaking the fast, right? And so I asked them, when do you start your travel? Well, I start at 8 a.m. Which means that at the point of the true dawn, that person is at home, and if the person is at home, then they must start their fast, right? And now at the time of, once they've started the travel, and now if they reach the place that they're going before Maghrib, and it's quite, they're quite comfortable and everything's okay, there's no haraj, there's no difficulty, then there is absolutely no need to break the fast, right? And so just that as a rule to remember, that travel means you must physically be traveling at the point of at the time of true dawn, right? Only then will that person have concession of breaking the fast, right? Is that clear? If there's any questions, then just let me know, inshallah ta'ala. Barakallahu feekum. Okay, just let's continue then. So let's move on to, what if someone is not able to fast at all, right? They have a type of sickness, they have some sort of haraj, some sort of difficulty, some disease, some condition that they'll never be able to fast, right? If a person is never able to fast, because if a person is not able to fast in the month of Ramadan because of some sickness or some difficulty, then they have to make qada for those fasts, right? They would make those fasts up outside the month of Ramadan, before the following Ramadan. So for women that are nursing and are pregnant and don't fast, then they must make their fast up before the following Ramadan. For similarly, for women that go through menstruation, they will make up their fast before the next Ramadan. Similarly, if someone's sick, actual or effective, they will have to make their fast up. But if someone has chronic condition, chronic disease, and they'll never be able to fast, they never will be able to remain hungry for 8, 9 hours, 12 hours, 16 hours, in that case, then they will have to pay something called fidya, right? And so when unable to fast altogether and at any time of the year, so you're not able to fast at any time. With some people, maybe it's easier when the day gets shorter, especially if you live in this part of the world. In some months the day gets very short, and so the daylight hours are shorter and fasting is easier. But if someone is unable to fast, throughout the year, then expiatory payments are due for each day of fasting. Fidya has to be given for each day of fasting, right? And what is this fidya? So the ruling of fidya, or the fardiyya, the obligation of fidya, is received from the verses of the Quran. And so fidya is an amount equivalent to sadaqatul fitr, right? And it'll be given in exchange for every fast that you're not able to do, as long as you have this inability until death. You're not able to fast ever again until death. You're now allowed to give fidya. Usually it's those that are really elderly, or those that have some sort of chronic illness. they're the ones that know for sure that they will never be able to fast, and so therefore they give fidya, right? What is this fidya? It's just a in hadith it comes as half a sa'. I'll explain in the next slide what half a sa' means. But in monetary value, in today's kind of currency, it's just £5, right? It's what a meal would cost, right, for a poor person, right? So £4, £5, £3, 3.50, you know, depending on where you are. Even in this country, up north it might be slightly cheaper, south it's just a bit more. So in your own region, wherever you are, just what a normal meal, a very average basic meal would cost. £5, £4, £5, £6. That's what fidya is. So you'd just be given £5 for every fast that you are unable to fulfill, right? So if someone is unable to fast, then of course it'd probably be 30 fasts per year, right? So they would have to give fidya for 30 fasts every single year, right? There's a scenario where a person has given fidya for the last 3, 4, 5 years, and suddenly they now actually feel better, right? Or they're no longer, they don't have that sickness. They no longer are sick enough to leave the fast, right? So they can actually fast now. If that is the case, if, for example, someone's condition does improve to the point where they can fast, then they will have to make up for all the fasts that they missed, including the ones that they have given fidya for. So say they have gave fidya for the last 3 years, and then all of a sudden they are better. Allah has given them shifa, and so they are able to make the fast. If that is the case, then they will need to fulfill, or need to do qada of all the missed fasts. That needs to be done, yeah, even if they have paid the fidya. Okay. Classically, where, you know, how did we calculate £5? The hadith, or you know, from the hadith, the fuqaha have taken that it's half a sa'a, right? Half a sa'a has to be given as a fidya. Sa'a used to be measurement. Sa'a used to be the cup that they used to measure things in. So, you know, if someone came and wanted rice or dates, they would say, can I have 2 sa'a of it? And so you would, whatever came into that pot, you would then give that. That was the measurement. And so half a sa'a of wheat, right, is what needs to be given in fidya, right? And so a sa'a is 3.5, just over 3.5 kg. Half a sa'a is just under 2 kg, about 1.82 kg. That's half a sa'a, right? And so that half a sa'a, that 1.82 kg of wheat, right, that's the meal, isn't it? That's what would have been historically, what would have been enough to satisfy a person's one meal. And so equivalent of that today would be about you know, £4, £5, £6, something like that, right? That would be that's where we, you know, we get the figure from, the £4, £5, £6 figure. It comes from half a sa'a of wheat. That's where we are taking that from. Okay. Right. Just a few more things regarding this. Is, you know, we're coming to the end of the fasting now. So there are certain rulings, right? Some additional rulings that we you know, we have to remember. This is regarding those that that break their fast. So if someone does happen to break their fast, whether it's intentional, unintentional, how will they, what do they need to do throughout the day? So for the following people, it's wajib for them to remain like the fasting person, even if they've broken their fast, right? So if they've broken their fast, they must remain like the fasting person. So for someone who has broken their fast, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally or under coercion, they were forced to, in any of those cases, they must remain like the fasting person, right? If a traveler, someone who was physically traveling and they didn't fast because they were at the time of true dawn, they were in the state of travel, and so they didn't start their fast, or they broke it for whatever reason because of difficulty whilst they were traveling. In any of these cases, if they have returned home now, they are now a resident. And if they return home and they still have a few hours left until Maghrib, until the fast opens, they must also remain in the state of fasting. They must continue to fast. For a woman who becomes pure from her menstruation or postnatal bleeding, so for a woman who has now had a shower, who has now cleansed and purified herself, she has to now continue like the one who is fasting. So she can't, eat and drink and so on. If a child becomes an adult, so if a child becomes an adult during the day, he was allowed to eat, he was allowed to drink, but all of a sudden, this is difficult. I mean, how does this, how will he know? But in theory, this is true. If a child becomes an adult during the day, then they have to continue like the one who is fasting. Similarly, for a person who has accepted Islam, if someone has accepted Islam, they don't have to make qada of that day's fast, but for the rest of the day, they must continue to fast, right? And just, for particularly for women, for a woman, she will experience one of these three scenarios, right, in Ramadan. So either Ramadan has begun for her while she's in the state of menstruation. Can we make this bigger, the slide, if it's possible, please? Yeah, thank you. So for her, either Ramadan has begun in the state of menstruation. In that case, then, if Ramadan has started and she is already in the state of menstruation, she's already in the state of she's already experiencing the menstruation cycle. If that's the case, then she may eat in a manner that no fasting person sees her eating, because of hurma of Ramadan, right? Because of sanctity of this month, not because Allah is placing a burden on her. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has eased her by giving her the rukhsah, the concession of not fasting. And it's the type of concession that she must follow. Like, this is not like, oh, I feel okay, I can. No, if she's in her, she's in the state of menstruation, this is rukhsa hukmiya. It's the majazi, legal rukhsa. She cannot fast, right? Allah has given her that rukhsa. In fact, for not fasting, she's getting the reward as someone who is fasting, right? And so it's not that things, it's a burden upon her, making things difficult for her, but there's hurma to things. And the hurma, the respect, the sanctity of the month of Ramadan, the month of Ramadan deserves that she refrain or eat in a manner that no person sees her eating. Okay. And as for someone who starts her menstruation cycle during the day, right? So she may have started fasting, right? In the morning, she started fasting, and then she has to abruptly stop. She starts her menstruation cycle. In this case, then she must eat in a manner that no fasting person sees her. It is incorrect for her to refrain from eating. So she should eat, right? She must eat, right? If she has started her period, she must eat, but in a way that a fasting person doesn't see her, right? Again, that hurma of the month of Ramadan. But it's not right for her to now refrain from eating because she doesn't have a fast, right? She can't create a likeness with those that are fasting. She doesn't have a fast now, so she should eat. She must eat, but again, must eat in a manner that no fasting person sees her. And thirdly, a woman might find herself where she was in the state of she began Ramadan and she began fasting in Ramadan, and then in the middle of Ramadan, right, she started a menstruation cycle, so therefore she has to stop during the day. So her period starts, so menstruation stops. Sorry, she was in her cycle, and then she stops now. So menstruation stops during the day, right? So she was menstruating and then she stops during the day. In this case, she must conduct herself like a fasting person and not eat anything for the rest of the day. So maybe she ate something in the morning for breakfast during the day, and then her period is completed, menstruation stops. In that case, then she needs to be like the person who is fasting, right, and needs to abstain from everything that a person who is fasting must abstain from, right? So often a woman will find herself in one of these three situations or scenarios in the month of Ramadan, and so all of them have one thing in common, and that's the sanctity, the hurma of the month of fasting. It's the hurma of Ramadan, and she has to keep that. And for anyone else, right, for the one who is sick, for the one who is traveling, this is the same thing. They can't be openly eating in the month of Ramadan, and this is something that's being lost. This I repeat this whenever I am teaching this section, that whenever I've happened to be outside near some takeaways, near some shops in the month of Ramadan, there are a lot of Muslim sisters, particularly brothers too, but Muslim sisters particularly, that are eating and drinking in the month of Ramadan, right? And that sanctity, that hurma of the month is being lost. This is all for the hurma of the month. This is not to make things difficult for her. In fact, Sharia allows her to eat, but not in front of others, such that other people don't see her, right? Okay, and that brings us to the end of the chapter of fasting. So inshallah, we will next session start from the chapter of zakat. So we will cover zakat and then hajj, and then we will move on to chapters or like nikah and talaq and so on and so forth, right? So we will move on to zakat next week. If there's any questions, I know we're finishing slightly earlier today, but if there's any questions, then yeah, fire away, inshallah. I can't see any questions, Musa. If there are any, then let me know, please. Jazakumullah khair. Okay, if there aren't any, then that's fine. We will we'll bring the session to an end, inshallah, and we'll reconvene next week, inshallah. I'll see you all next week. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.